So hello everyone and welcome to another episode or another month of the new World of New Biz. I have a fantastic lineup for you today, as always. And we have lots of you signed up now. I don't know why, but for some reason, here we go. I can see you all joining in now. So we have got we've not quite broken, I'm still gutted. We've not broken the 1,000 barrier. I was just saying to the guys, I'm just going to check how many people we've got signed up. 972 of you are now signed up to join us today. So yes, welcome if you've not joined us before. My name is Katie Street and this is the webinar that talks all about the world of agency new business, how to attract and win new clients. We cover varying different subjects, but today's subject is all about prospecting. So how you can reach the clients that you really want to work with, that are going to be a great fit for your agency and are going to help you with your growth. And joining me today, I have, as always, an awesome lineup. So first, I don't know where everyone is, so I'm probably going to point in the wrong directions here, but for me, Charlotte is here. So Charlotte and I actually work together. She now heads up marketing at Knight Frank. And yeah, I guess I would have approached you guys in some way. I think it was more of a referral, wasn't it, Charlotte? I was working with a regional marketing department at Savills, and then we connected and worked on some projects there. So yes, Charlotte is the client voice today and is going to tell us exactly what she wants to hear from agencies. So welcome, Charlotte.
Hi, good to be here, Katie.
I know, and excited to reconnect again, and now in a new position, like Frank. So yeah, which I'm guessing Savills were really happy about. Anyone between Savills and Knight Frank, Savills and Knight. Are you still friendly with lots of the Savills team?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think so, but like you say, when I left the building, it was.
I know the rivalry between Savills and Knight Frank. Well, it's renowned, isn't it? Certainly in London.
Yeah.
So yes, welcome. And next up, I have the amazing Amanda. So Amanda joins us from Alf Insights, and some of you will know Alf. And in fact, I know Alf from the old school days when it was even a book, Brad and Alf. And I worked because I started my career in advertising, and it was like gold dust finding a Brad and Alf book in the office, and you'd be like going through like, oh my God. And it just seems crazy that that's how we used to find people's details, and mainly back then phone numbers, and we'd be picking up the phone hounding people. Yeah, so that's not quite the approach that all of us take today. So it'll be interesting to hear about how things have changed, and of course, Amanda, what Alf are doing and your kind of future roadmap for the platform, which is great. Yes, welcome, Amanda.
Hi.
And last but by no means least, if I can talk, is the fantastic Michael. So Michael is actually a client of ours at Street, but fairly new. So Michael, you've just joined Summit. Do you want to tell us a bit about your role and about Summit as an agency, and yeah, what you're doing and your challenges?
Yeah, thank you. I'm brand new at the business, so I started on the 1st of June. So this is a good opportunity for me to polish and test my elevator pitch. So yeah, I head up sales for Summit. We're a performance marketing agency. Ultimately, we make it more likely that people buy from our clients than anyone else. Summit are a great agency, one of the longest established digital agencies in the UK. Been doing this since '99, so before Google launched AdWords. Worked with some great leading brands. I think we've got an unmatched pedigree in retail. Examples of those: 3, Jules, H. Samuel, The Range, Argos, and Ann Summers, which was a recent win. So yeah.
Oh, congratulations, I like that. So we've got a lot to talk about today. As always, I haven't done my not as always, I haven't done my other bits of intros and housekeeping, but I haven't done my housekeeping. So if you want to ask a question, please do pop it in the Q&A. That's where I'm most likely to see it. What usually happens is lots of action gets going in the chat as well. So yeah, do feel free to introduce yourselves to each other, say hi, introduce your agency. Yeah, and I'm hoping for another lively session. So I'm going to get straight into it. We've had 6 minutes of hearing from mainly me. So let's now talk to our lovely guests. So Charlotte, I'm going to come to you first because it's always super interesting to, and I know our audience are always keen to understand, exactly what it is that the brands and their prospective clients want to hear, and how they want to hear from them. And I think that's often the biggest challenge for people, from a new business point of view. I always get people to say to me, if we just had more leads, we're excellent at converting. I mean, I'm not sure if that's always true, by the way, but often that is what agencies do. If we just have more leads, we can convert them. So obviously that's a big part of what we do at Street Agency. But how do you like to be approached, or how do you even find the agencies that you're looking to work with? Where does your journey start as a client?
Thanks, Katie. I think the tough thing is that actually there's quite few opportunities to really get the attention of the people that you need to get the attention of, and it tends to be that catalyst. So I'm a relatively I've been within the business for a year, and classically what happens when a new head of comes in, you look at your agency roster, you look at your strategy, and that's when you go out to market and think, I need another ad agency, or I want to go on the talent show of digital agencies. So I think that's the challenge, is how many moments in time are there to get attention? Because day to day, I would say you can't prospect me day to day and capturing the attention. Sometimes my attention is captured, and it's when agencies are very personalized and pertinent to my brand and my business, and they have to dangle quite a big carrot to capture that attention. But the days of being able to pick up the phone and have a cold call conversation, I think, are just gone, especially through the pandemic. We've all experienced it. We all now live our lives literally back to back, 9 hours of video calls. So capturing attention is really hard. On the flip side, when there's a moment in opportunity and we have got a brief, so there's either a pivot in business strategy, or there's a new opportunity that we think is in the marketplace, I do the classic look at things I like and have captured my attention from a brand point of view or a product point of view, and look to see which agencies created that material. Obviously go out to my network and leverage the network, and go out to past contacts as well.
Yeah, I think the buying signals is really important, and I know, in fact, great segue, naturally done. This is not a setup, by the way, guys. Shall I? Yeah, to now introduce Amanda, who hosts a platform that helps with us identifying those buying signals. But I think it is so true. Especially now, you've got to really be aware of the kind of activities that are going on within your prospects world that might signal that they're ready, or they're going to be soon to be in the market to for a new agency. And that could be the fact that you've just started a new role. It could be you've got a new CEO or someone else who's new on the C-suite that's going to want to implement some changes. It could be that you're launching a new product or service, or there's obvious ones out there. I don't know, Amanda, whether there are any that you find are more popular than others, or ones that we should focus on when looking for those buying signals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I might steal that line, moments in time, because I think that's just such a good way to describe that. So, certainly with our ALF clients, so these are people responsible for new business, trying to kind of, go out and drum up business and increase their pipeline. We went and we asked ALF clients a number of different questions kind of at the beginning of the year about their prospecting. And one of the biggest challenges they had was targeting people at the right time. And I think that's such a key thing. So looking for those little moments. And I think job changes has to be number one, actually, because you just see it time and time again. A new person comes in, they want to put their own stamp on their role, on the brand. The time period is probably a little bit more questionable. You probably don't want to try and get in front of somebody on their first day. They need to make sense of the world. But I would definitely say that that's a key driver to look for in your own network. So people you already know, but of course in new brands that you're prospecting. But it doesn't just have to be about those individuals. you know, as you said, if you're going to pivot on your strategy or make a change, that would be another time that you look at. So, you know, we at Alf, we focus on catching kind of product launches, mergers and acquisitions. It could even be a small one. You know, it could be a big FMCG brand buying a much smaller brand. That's bound to need some support. So yeah, all of those little changes, I would say, are really key. And you can, you know, you can catch them in trade press, understanding spend levels, and keeping on top of things. But typically, I think most of the business one is in reaction to a change rather than that old school, I'm cold calling all day long, or, you know, I'm trying to just speak to as many people as I can. I think definitely you've got to find a reason that's going to be shaking things up in a brand.
Yeah, definitely. And the right way to get in touch as well in those early days. Now, I know, Michael, you're probably, well, we do a lot of your outreach and have helped you build a very nice engaged audience through our marketing and outreach work together. But you're new in post at the other side of the fence. What is it that you've been focused on, I guess, or where have you seen, I guess, not just in your post now at Summit, but from a prospecting point of view, what kind of tactics have really been working for you?
So people have talked it down a little bit, but I think telemarketing or outreach is very important. Of course, the pandemic has hampered this approach significantly, but in the past, it genuinely was our best approach. We had 3 or 4 telemarketers, and it's not just on the phone, it's email, LinkedIn too, but people within your business who are focused on outreach. And of course, we currently use you guys Street, Katie, and that's working well for us. But I think you just need to have people who are focused on outreach and starting those conversations. You can't take new biz by chance, I believe. I think it's very important to have processes, that there's a perfect way of selling, our preferred way of selling, and we need to try and bring prospects on our journey. Of course, not all will want to do so, but you know, we really want to make it easy to sell, and at the same time make it easy for potential customers to buy from you. The process needs to be easy. Don't put unnecessary barriers or obstacles that make it difficult for people to choose you. So a sales process it just takes the guesswork out of sales. Every part of the sales process can be optimized, and ultimately you're trying to develop a repeatable sales process, which becomes very important when you're onboarding new salespeople. Sales is tough, and so a repeatable sales process is the best tool that you'll have in your toolbox to help others be successful. Couple of other things, I record all the metrics I can. I literally try and record everything. People think it's pointless, especially when you're setting it up, but that gives you the understanding of the sales process, and therefore you can analyze what's working well, and more importantly, what's not going well. So I literally record as much data as I possibly can, and you know, it does take time. It's worth it. And if you ever find yourself in a pinch point where yourself or a member of team isn't performing, you look at the data, and the data will tell you what's going wrong.
Yeah, and there's so many platforms out there now that can help you do that. You know, there's HubSpot, have a free CRM, there's Pipedrive, there's Capsule, there's obviously, you know, some very intelligent platforms out there as well, like Salesforce and various others. You know, some I think probably too overcomplicated for us simpletons in the agency world. Yeah. We do need to track a fair amount, but it's not as complex, probably, Charlotte, as your strategy for your CRM, I'm sure, which probably needs a lot more data in when you're kind of B2C and not B2B like us lot.
Yeah.
So
if I could just add a point, I'm sorry, Katie. We use a CRM, we use Pipedrive.
Yeah.
But Pipedrive is for us, the salespeople, and I record the metrics outside of Pipedrive too for sharing with the wider business. It's difficult to get people to maintain the CRM to extract all of that data. And sometimes what I find is that some sales CRMs are for more the high churn, you know, volume number of sales approaches, which isn't really the field that we operate in. So I record everything
Yeah, Joanna's actually asked you a question on that, Michael, in terms of how do you record the data? Is it mainly automatically done, or is there manual work too?
No, I do it manually. So at month end, I literally ask the team on the most basic of metrics: how many leads have you been given that month or generated yourself? How many of those turned into meetings? How many second meetings did you have? How many events did you attend? How many proposals did you write? How many contracts did you send? And how many deals that you signed? And then you can start to see what the pinch points are that, for example, they're being given good numbers of meetings. Those meetings are turning into second meetings where they're discussing proposals, but those proposals aren't turning into contracts and deals, and therefore the pinch point is at the proposals. Just to sort of come thinking of a story, a sales guy back in the day used to try and close in his first meeting. And our simple sales process, you never close in your first meeting. The objective of your first meeting is to get a second meeting. That is the objective. So never close, because you want to go back in. This is a high value sell. It's a sell that can't be rushed, and we need to take it slowly. Whenever sales have moved too quickly, they've gone wrong because people haven't been able to manage expectations about what will be achieved. If things move too quick, I always worry. So a staggered sales process where you're only trying to move them one step along, from a first to a second to a proposal, to try and get agreement to a contract, and hopefully to a deal.
Yeah, and that first session, I'm sure you concur with this, Charlotte. It should always be about listening, because otherwise you're potentially gonna, sell. And I am a salesperson, but I hate the word sale, because it's not a sale. It should be a solution. You need to define the right solution, and in order to define the right solution, you've got to listen to your prospect. You've got to use that first session to ask questions and really not talk too much about yourself at all. I would say that first initial meeting's really got to be about understanding the prospect, so that you can come back with a level of understanding and a solution that's actually going to help solve their problem.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I think that it depends on the brief issued by the client. So what we tend to do, and I've done a lot of in my past, is I have a particular brief that gets issued to the market, whether we do that directly to people that we found and liked, or whether that's through intro matchmaker type service. And I have to say, the most successful, thinking back now over nearly a decade of those kind of meets and greets, some of the most successful is where the agency is able to show some really clear insight of your sector, your customers, your competitors. Because I have to say, personally, I hate going into a blank canvas meeting where a team says, "Why are you here?" And you think, well, you know why we're here, because we've issued a brief. So it's getting the carrot on the hook to really capture attention early on. But then I think, to your point, Katie, then going into the listening piece and getting a sense of who's around the table, because I will change who I take to those meetings and who I put around the table within my business, depending on the brief as well. And that personal rapport, building relationships very quickly, is then a really important part of that meeting, of course.
Yeah, it's so tough to do as well. Because as an agency, you want to sort of show off a bit, don't you? Often, like, you're like, look how brilliant we are. But I really think it's so important early in that sales process to really listen to your clients, because you're going to, when you get and we're going on a bit further from the prospecting bit here, but I think an important conversation to have is when you're getting into those negotiation phases. And in fact, I did a fantastic podcast with a guy called Mike Lander, which is out on Thursday, which talks all about that negotiation process. And he gives some really good tips on the kind of questions that you should be asking in those early chemistry meetings to get the most out of your prospects, and actually qualify it for yourself as well as for the client, because it's got to be a good fit for both parties. It's just as much it's just as important for the agency to make sure that the client is right for them as it is the other way around. And I think sometimes as agencies we forget that. And And actually, this is a really good point that does link back to prospecting quite well, is if you haven't got a strong pipeline, and this would be the same in any industry, if you haven't got a strong pipeline of opportunities, then you sometimes feel under pressure to take clients on that maybe aren't quite the right fit for you. So I really do think, you know, prospecting is so important because it gives you the confidence to say no when you know really that client isn't right for you. But if you haven't got anything else in your pipeline, or you've got a very small pipeline, often agencies will think, oh gosh, we desperately need this work. So I think it's in everyone's interest, the client and the agency, because the client wants to find the right agency, and don't, you know, I'm sure would prefer for an agency to say, do you know what, I don't think this is right for us because we can't quite do this, or we haven't done that before, or which isn't always necessarily a bad thing, or, you know, we just don't think that we're going to be compatible because of our setup or our staff or our ways of working. The client would prefer that as well, because the last thing any of us want is to start relationships that aren't going to work. Same as in, you know, normal life. We don't really want to start relationships that we don't think are going to work, right?
I couldn't agree. Sorry to cut in. I couldn't agree more.
No, go for it.
You need to say no as often as you're saying yes. There's nothing worse than a salesperson under pressure that just says yes to stuff just to win the business. You need to have confidence in your ability. You know, a salesperson's a little bit like a striker in a game of football. If you're not scoring, you start feeling a bit desperate. I need a deal. I need to score a goal. But you have to sell honestly. You have to do what you're going to do. That's the best advice I can give everyone. Never lie. Don't just say yes because that's the easy answer to give. Be a trusted partner. I won a bit of business recently. I met them 7 years ago and we agreed that it wasn't a good time. And they came back 7 years later and said, Michael, you might remember me. We met 6 years ago. Actually, we met 7 years, 3 months ago. I remember these things. And, you know, then they became a very successful customer because it was right. The chemistry was right. The fit was right. I've got some great examples of winning business. To tell you a little story, you know, we outbounded Paul Smith many years ago, won pay-per-click Google Ads stuff, did what we said we were going to do, which became SEO, did what we said we were going to do, which became an international campaign. And then the contact moved to Pandora, brought us in there, still a competitive pitch. We won that. In that process, they introduced us to their boss. That wasn't a good fit. We agreed it wasn't a good fit. Their boss then moved to Stocker, and he got in touch with us and asked if we could come in because they trusted me. I said no as often as I said yes. And that contact then moved to Jabra, the conference phone, headphone people. They brought us in there. They introduced us to a sister brand, Jet Kids. So, you know, just do sell honestly, and people will keep coming back to you.
Yeah, and I think that's also key. Sorry, I'm so excited about this conversation. And guys, Mark and Tom, I can see you've got questions. I am coming to them. That actually, you know, new business, and that's why it's great having fantastic clients like Michael. But new business isn't a flash in the pan. It's not something you can go, do you know what? And it's the same with marketing. Charlotte, you'll know this. You can't just switch your marketing on and hope that it's going to deliver overnight. Leading your new biz and your marketing strategy has to be a constant tap running, and that is how it works, and it makes life easier for you. And it might take a year for your machine to start working properly, or working as well as it could or should do. Not to say that won't mean that you'll get, you know, we have clients that we get opportunities for, you know, in the first month of leading campaigns for them. But I know, I'm damn certain that after a year of us working with them, we will have built a really engaged audience, and that, you know, it's ongoing. It's constantly, exactly like you were saying, Michael, at the beginning, constantly reaching out, utilizing, you know, your insights, developing helpful content that's talking to the needs of your audience. And that does map me into a question from Tom, actually, which says, if you're leading, and sorry, this is Bam Bam, to those newbies, this is one of my naughty dogs who was chewing my chair, so I thought I better get him up before my chair breaks or something. Tom's asked, if you're leading with a solution-based approach to start the conversation, what's the best way to find customer problems to solve to solve your problems if you're a bit more of a generalist? Now, I don't know what kind of generalist you are, Tom. Please feel free to add or put in the chat. But I would say the starting point, it should always be what your value exchange is. So understanding sort of 4 areas that we tend to look at when we're working with clients on a value proposition or developing a lead marketing message, which should always be around that value exchange. And that's what's happening in the market. Look at, not just the marketing trade press, but any kind of, if you've got specific sectors, look at their trade press, what challenges. Use Google. Don't be afraid to ask really basic questions to Google, because it does come back with some fantastic results. So do some desk-based research in the market. Look at your competitors or people that you come up against, or peers or people that you respect. What are they saying? What insights are they putting out? What are they blogging about? What are their social channels saying? What engagement are they getting? Hopefully they've done some research and they are talking about the right subjects, or maybe they're not. Maybe you'll see that their content isn't getting good engagement, therefore avoid those subjects. Talk to your clients, speak to your existing clients. What is it that you value about us? Why, what is it that you enjoy with, about working with us? Tell, and that actually can unlock opportunities with your existing clients as well. And then of course, understand what it is that your agency does, and look at where, if there's any commonalities in those 3 areas that you've researched, look at how that hooks up to your agency. And that should start to give you, 1, a clear value proposition, and 2, the kind of content pillars and subjects that are going to engage your audience. Because to my mind, that's nowadays, and I'd be interested to hear the panel's thoughts on this, how you should start a conversation. It shouldn't be on the phone. I'm not saying the phone isn't part of it, but it should start with some kind of helpful, insightful content that is talking to the needs of your audience, that you can share with people, you can share on your social channels, that's actually going to help them with the problem that you've done your research on, that will help them overcome something within their business or within their role. If you can meet both of those, think about the individual as well as the company, then you're top trumps.
Again, if you don't mind me cutting in,
No,
I completely agree. You have to make noise, you have to stand out, you have to iteratively market your business. It's not a short campaign and stops. You also need to have realistic expectations of what your marketing activity will achieve. So trying to break it down to more upper funnel marketing of thought leadership, driving credibility for your agency, and then sort of more bottom funnel conversion, lead gen focused activity, and report back on those, because here we're looking for engagement and views, and here we are looking for calls and meetings and things like that. So I also think it's really important to have stories. I sell by stories. I think that's the right way of approaching conversations. I'm fortunate to work in an industry where we can do some desk research prior to engaging with prospects. So when we are outreaching, and Charlotte, comes back to your point, that initial outreach would be a little bit more informed, rather than, I work for this agency, isn't it great? I might say, Charlotte, I've noticed this, or we've seen that your SEO performance is in decline, or your website seems slow, and we hear some recommendations. So there's value add from the outset, and that's really why I work in performance marketing. It's not selling double glazing. It's easier, if that makes sense. But sell by stories. Structure your stories that make it easy for you to use them. So for our case studies, giving away some secrets, for our case studies, I split our case studies by client, by service line, and by problem. And then I sort of, good naming conventions, a matrix, so I can easily see, I'm keen to find out what you did for 3 Mobile, no problem. What's your experience in telecoms? No problem. Have you ever worked with somebody in this channel? Yes, we have. We've got this problem. Can you help? Yes, we have. So you're setting yourself up to be successful, if that makes sense. And, find the stories, write them clearly, structure them in a few different ways. Some people like to read more detail. Some people like top line, but then allow yourself to, structure them in a way that makes it easy for you to respond to people's questions.
Love it. Thank you, Mike.
I think there's something really interesting. Katie, you were talking about lead time and ultimately how long it takes to make a difference. And actually there's something very interesting in that. And you talked about how agencies can help clients. And I think what's important is when we're in our businesses, yes, of course, we've got the strategic plan, the longer term vision, but a lot of the day-to-day is the immediacy of where's the fire, especially at that head of role. It's like, what channel is, where's my fire, what am I putting out? So what's a very appealing thought is that, okay, what we're here, but what does success look like? Or what's the trend within your sector in 12 months time to be number one in your market? This is what we're forecasting. You know, some of that longer term planning insight is really interesting. And I suppose it taps into what Michael was saying about plan your pitch, and what that process looks like.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting in terms of, and in fact, someone's asked that to Charlotte there. Interested to hear from Charlotte about what she looks for in an agency. But I think insights are really important. I don't know your view, but of course, many moons ago, I was actually once client side and actually worked in the Savills marketing team for a little while recently. But I think from my point of view, it was, you know, I wanted those insights, but I also wanted them in a digestible way. So don't just send me a massive report that's 20, which is lovely. And I know, you know, we help agencies produce these a lot of the time. And some people are really, really great at producing that long form, you know, white paper style content, but pick out the salient points, make it exactly like Michael was saying, make it easy, I would say. I don't know, Charlotte, if there's, you know, maybe you disagree, maybe you like the really long white papers, but I personally would always want, you know, to pick up information in a really digestible way.
Yeah, I think it's that point around how do you capture attention in what are days where people don't have much attention to give outside of the business remit at that time. I think the multimedia thing is really interesting. So if I think about some of the ways that now I'm going to give, don't everybody harass me, will you, and get my number, but for me, you know, WhatsApp is really interesting, and I've had some really interesting case studies of where someone's DM'd me in LinkedIn, they've popped me an email, they've actually, you know, they have WhatsApp me, and I'm a bit of a WhatsApp fan, and then actually something's come through the post. And at that point, you think, okay, there's a good level of tenacity going on here. This is someone that really wants to get our attention. Okay, you've got my attention. Have you got something really interesting that's gonna hold that attention piece?
And I love that you like it as well, because I think sometimes you get scared that we're like being massive stalkers, but we're not. And sometimes you just don't get and this is why I'm talking about that lead time. You know, you don't get noticed always on the first time, and then people go, oh, they didn't reply, so I'm never going to message them again. No, I think it's something like the stats, something like you need on average 8 connections, and even if it was just on email, like 8 emails before someone actually sometimes pays attention. Don't be afraid to keep pushing out. And I love that multimedia approach. And I know actually, Amanda, you've probably got some really good stats on that, in terms of, because you've done a lot of research, Alpha's done a lot of research on the best ways to prospect, which also is a question from Mark. See, Mark, I have got to you eventually, I promised I would, because he was saying, what channel do people prefer when being contacted by potential agencies? Email, LinkedIn, cold calls, letter? I'd love to, well, Amanda, let's come to you first.
Well, I think you've got to remember that every buyer is going to have a different preference. So, Charlotte, you're all right receiving a WhatsApp, and personally, I think WhatsApp is just a great channel. If somebody's got their work mobile number available, utilize it, because not everybody is. So that's something to think about. I think when we did our survey with our users to find out, well, how are people, you know, approaching their prospects, 100% of people are using email, and I think that's obvious, and it is a really important medium. It's really easy, especially working from home, but just don't forget that everybody receives so many emails all the time, and if this is prospecting and you've spent the time to get a really valuable message or some insight, it might be less of a chance for you know, that prospect to actually digest it when they're receiving similar emails from lots and lots of different agencies all the time. So yeah, I think phone is the obvious one for me that I like, and I know we've mentioned that maybe phone is less popular, and certainly we found that our clients are using phone less and less, but it's still pretty responsive. And I think even working from home, if you've got somebody's number, we've certainly felt the like access to decision makers over the last year has increased. Actually being able to, you know, speak to a marketing director or a senior person rather than going around the houses has been much more of a possibility since, this pandemic with everybody being at home. So I certainly wouldn't let go of the phone. And video, my personal favorite.
Yes,
we're on video all the time.
Yeah.
We're on video right now, and there's certainly Zoom fatigue and things like that are going on. But for prospecting, I've only received a few myself, but getting a video in an email from somebody that they've sat down, they've spent the time to make it just for me, it's already brought them a couple of minutes because I can see the effort that's gone into it, and I'm going to be able to, hear what they say, understand their personality. They're going to come across really well. And that might have been somebody I didn't pick up the phone for, or didn't want to see a sea of text in an email from. So I would say video, nobody's using in terms of our clients. I think only 8% of our clients have been using it at the moment. And if nobody's doing it, stick out, right? That's one way to get ahead of the competition. But my best advice is don't do one thing, do it all, because everybody has a different preference. Somebody could be annoyed by a WhatsApp message, and the other person, you get a meeting 10 times quicker because that's the choice. So I would say make sure you do all of those channels. And as Michael said, make it part of the process, record it, understand which channels are more successful for you, which ones are getting meetings, but definitely cover all bases.
I think that goes for both, but we've talked about two really big things here. I think one is how to reach people, which channels should you use, and also then the kind of content. And there's been quite a few questions around that in terms of, what kind of content should you use. In fact, Paul, you've asked, much of the discussion has been about sales approach. What have the panel found to be successful as nurturing strategies and a content-led engagement? And I would say, and again, this maps back to stuff that we've been talking about, is make it easy. But if you're developing some content, and I talk about this a lot, so sorry to those of you that listen to me a lot and are bored of me banging on about the same things, but it will eventually sink in if I do that. That think about how you can shatter your content. If you so for instance, today's webinar, we're going to record it now. It's live. I've got quite a few people with us live. We're then going to put it onto our YouTube channel. We'll send it out to the people that couldn't attend. They'll be able to watch it on there. We're going to develop some little clips that we'll put onto our social channels. So it'll be video content and clips from today's session on our social channels in terms of video. We'll also turn it into a value post. So we'll look at the content and everything that people have talked about. We'll pull out the salient points and hints and tips and turn that into a really fantastic little value post, which people can learn from. We'll write it up. We'll put that on our website, and there'll be a full write-up, because people like to digest things in different ways. Some people will engage the social posts and watch a short video. Some people will dial in and listen to it live. Some people will need to listen to it later on. Some people will want to read it. So think about things that you can do that make your life easy and help you develop lots of different content in lots of different formats, because that will then meet lots of your audience, because we're all different at the end of the day. And I totally agree. Try innovative new ways of pushing that content out to your prospects. Michael, I felt like you were going to say something then, so I did a pause.
I was going to say something. I use a cheesy saying that some people have heard of and others don't, but you have to eat your own dog food. And you have to behave in the manner, if you don't know what that means. But firstly, it's behaving in the manner that you want your customers, you're asking your customers to behave. That saying came from the fact that many moons ago, and it's probably nonsense made up, a dog food salesperson used to go out and say, this dog food is so good, humans could eat it. And he'd open a can and he'd eat some of the dog food himself. And wow, how good is this dog food if the person's eating it himself? So, we specialize in SEO as one of our channels. So a big part of SEO, and apologies to get too channel specific, but a big part of SEO is developing content and content marketing. So we need to behave in that manner because we're asking others to behave in that manner there too. If you don't believe in the approach that you're telling others to do, you've got to do that. And if people can see that, you've just got that extra advantage on your marketplace, on your customers, stuff like that. Sorry, competitors, excuse me.
I totally agree. Sorry, Charlotte, you go.
I was just laughing at one of the comments coming in, which was, I think, drink your own champagne is a better expression. I would say I would go with that. Harry,
It's
please.
easy to drink champagne. That misses the trick. The thing is,
Yeah.
most people wouldn't eat dog food. So if you could go to market and say, would you eat this? No, well, it's so good that I'll eat it. What a compelling message.
You
My
just
mum
reminded
won't
me
eat.
of something.
My mum
I
was.
was, yeah, I used to. I was back in the day, really back in the day. I was a recruitment consultant, and you've just reminded me of one of the things I always used to say, which was, I'd never ask you to do a job that I wouldn't do myself.
It's so true, isn't it? And I think it helps give people that air of trust. And I'm sure that's why, you know, we get lots of inquiries at Street, is because I do practice what we preach. We do for ourselves what we do for our clients. And I know it works because we do it. And I only learn by doing. You know, most of the new tactics, new technologies, everything we use and do, we test for ourselves first. We go, yeah, do you know what, that worked really well, so we're going to roll it out for some of our clients now. So that's a great way. Now I've got loads of questions which I am going to try and sort of quick fire start to cover off. So maybe this one, probably first for you, Charlotte, but I'm sure everyone's got an opinion on it. If you like an agency but you're not ready to buy from them, how often would you like to hear from them to keep in touch? And how often basically would you send them content if it was insights led? And I think Mark has asked a similar question. At what point do you get hacked off at the number of contacts? So yeah, Charlotte, let's come to you first on that one.
Yeah, I think this is where the personalisation point really plays out. So some of the best prospecting I've ever had is when someone just keeps in touch. It's really light touch. It might be every month, but it's not, you know, we're going to subscribe you to every agency newsletter we do and bombard you. It's, God, Charlotte, how interesting. Exact conversation we were having the other day. And that's enough. It doesn't need any more than that. It's that personalisation piece and that linking back to the conversation or the business brief or business challenge that we were having the conversation about. That's what I love, rather than that sort of mass subscribe, just sending reams of content that is useful but not personal and pertinent to my business context.
And I think that goes back to, sorry, the puppy is going mad, I'm going to have to get him, but that goes back to my point is, you know, make your outreach look personal. Again, anyone who listens to me regularly, I think agencies want to do these really beautiful designed newsletters and emails. Actually, it's best to send a plain text, even if you are sending it en masse, make it seem like it's more personal by sending it in plain text. So, because no one wants to feel like they're being spoken to by a marketing, well, I say no one, if they're an existing client, they might want to, but as a rule, certainly in the B2B world, that personal approach from a prospecting point of view, it depends what you're trying to achieve, right? But in this instance, we're trying to attract new clients. So I would always say, don't use designed emails, just use plain text, send them from a person, because people want to talk to a person, not a marketing team.
I agree. And there's a fantastic resource online, Harry's Marketing Examples, and everyone should have a little look at it. It's really good. Make your messages simple. Don't overcomplicate stuff. Use natural language. You know, write your emails as if you're saying it. Often I will write an email and I'll stand up and I'll read it out loud. Does it sound like how I talk to somebody? You know, don't use this overblown, you're trying to be fancy for the sake of being fancy. You're just talking to other people. That's what sales is. You're just talking to people. And so use natural language, get to the point, and don't overdress things. Really don't. But Harry's Marketing Examples, fantastic blog.
Can I just add to that as well? So, because in terms of annoying people with contact, I think you're only going to do that if you're contacting them with no relevancy. So I hate the term catch up. To call a prospect and organise a meeting or a coffee to catch up, if you don't have a good relationship, all right, if they're friends, you're meeting for a coffee, it's different. But all these catch ups that happen, it's kind of, you know, I think if anything, you're going to annoy your prospect because they're busy. They have enough to do rather than talking to you just to talk to you. If you're carrying on with those things that we've said and you're leading with insight, or you've got something valuable to exchange with them, then keep trying to contact them to give them that. But there is pointless contact as well, which is only going to put you in the wrong position.
Yeah, totally agree. It's about making sure, and that's when you have to think about your tactics and your outreach. What are you, it doesn't have to just be an insights post. Some of the best engagement that we used to have, and I'm really excited seeing as well, we've now had and I'm sure not everyone feels excited about the world opening up again, but I am excited about the world opening up again on the 19th of July, which is now official. But think about valuable ways that you can connect people. So we used to do some great things like round tables where you're getting maybe certain sectors together, and Charlotte, I'm hoping that this would be something that you'd be interested in. Maybe we'll do one where you're getting together people in other industries, or maybe sometimes in the same sectors, to come and discuss your problems. So you're actually meeting other heads of marketing and people who have got similar business problems. Think about things that are going to be valuable to your audience. It doesn't always have to be you having an opinion. It could be you connecting people with other people and helping facilitate a really interesting conversation. And if you can do things like that, I think actually there's some really great benefits that you get as an agency as well, because you're listening to your potential prospects' problems live, and then you can even go back with some solutions to those problems, which if you have connected people in that way, they're not going to be adverse to hearing you. We have actually done quite a few of those in the virtual environment as well. I don't think they're quite as good as they once were in the real room, but yeah, think about different tactics and ways that you can be helpful as well. It doesn't just have to be posting out insightful content. There's lots of other ways.
I think that's a really good point, Katie, and actually you reminded me of some of we've back in the day when we did that round table, and actually I used to find those round tables of being round the table with other heads of, and either having a keynote speaker, and I remember one being unbelievably memorable. It was years ago. It was head of content at LinkedIn. And I can just remember it being so powerful that's exactly, you can go and do that. You can be around the table and you can think, great, how can I apply that in my sector? How can we, so that connection piece is really valuable.
Totally.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go, Michael, because we've been doing some stuff.
Just going to say, bring personality into it. People buy from people. A silly small example. Okay, this is my room. I collect records, and I've agonized, is this the right background that I want? But actually, loads of people love, this is the talking point. People say, wow, you like records. How many records have you got? And immediately we've got some sort of rapport, and I'll bore them about my musical interests and stuff like that. But, bring personality into the conversation. Don't be shy of being yourself. Of course, to be professional, but be yourself. And again, that goes back to the point of use your natural language. Don't supercharge things. You improve things. Use simple language, natural language.
Definitely. Oh my gosh, guys, it has gone off in the Q&A. There's 8 questions for us to answer. I'm not sure if we're going to get through them in 10 minutes.
Go.
Yeah, I'm just going to quickly go for them, and hopefully some of them might have similarities. So Barney has asked, hi Barney, what catches your eye in social media from suppliers, Charlotte? Any favorite platform or content type? Does it work for agencies to maintain a constant useful social presence so they are in your consideration set at the right time?
Wow, good question. I'm thinking top of mind now. I love the famous campaigns handle, actually, which I think always captures great in different things. I think social media, I think the challenge is probably me knowing who to follow in social media. So it's how do you surface that content to me as a new prospect if I don't know you? So I think that's quite challenging. I think that comes back to that sharing great work or anything innovative or different that agencies are doing, and if they have a particular focus. We're in the property sector, and actually if there's an agency that thinks, what, we can go into that sector and we can do something game changing, I want to hear what that is, because I would say here and now, the property sector isn't as sexy as the FMCG or the retail or the luxe. It's quite a unique sector, so we're always looking for ways that we can be innovative and different within our sector. So I hope that's answered that helpfully.
Yeah, definitely. And the other one, which has come up, which I think you've started to answer, is do you find that voice notes on WhatsApp or LinkedIn is a good approach?
Ooh, voice notes. Ooh, I know Amanda said about the phone, and I'm sure the phone's great. The phone seems to just make me really cross because I get so many calls. So I hate to tell you, unless I know the caller, there's not much likelihood of me picking up. So I think that voice notes for me is maybe a step too far. What I think is very interesting through the pandemic has been LinkedIn. And actually, I was speaking to a CMO the other day, and the experience within LinkedIn of being able to DM the decision makers and not go via that kind of gatekeeper approach has been really fascinating. And we've had the same. So if you think we've got people that we're targeting as well, that DM piece in LinkedIn is really, I have found really fascinating, but not in that awful, sponsored link way. Actually say something interesting. And Katie, that's what you did to me, isn't it? You DM me in LinkedIn, and here we are today. So for me, voice notes aren't really the thing, just kind of it's capturing the point succinctly in an email or in a DM, whether that's LinkedIn or WhatsApp.
Yeah, and I think, like we said before, try different channels. The worst thing is you're not going to get a response. And actually, interestingly, I guess if you're not answering the phone, then maybe sending a voice note at the right time in the journey. I wouldn't do it as the first thing that you do personally. I think there's a point in the journey after you've hopefully sent some insights, and we would usually, if someone's not engaging with any of our content, we probably wouldn't voice note them unless we were desperate, because we really wanted them to speak at an event for us, or be, unless we were super keen or we had something really valuable to share with them, we wouldn't keep hounding them. So think about why you really want to get in touch with them, and then try different channels. And that leads me on to the next question, which was, you were talking about the video channel. And in fact, Amanda, was on a panel discussion. So I was being interviewed for the agency Collective on ways to reach out, and there was a lady, and all she's doing pretty much at the moment is video outreach, and she's smashing it. She's getting such good results. So I want my team to start exploring that. We'll start using it for Summit, if you like, Michael. Can you tell us more about the platform? Because I know there's specific platforms out there that can help us with this as well, aren't there?
Yeah, so I think there are quite a few available. So I mean, I use something called Vidyard. We use HubSpot, so it integrates really well with HubSpot, and it also integrates with LinkedIn. So you can you can create a video and put it into a message on LinkedIn, or you can put a thumbnail of a video into an email that you're sending somebody. I would definitely say there's a right and a wrong way to send video, though. So I mentioned that I had a few. And there are certainly some that I looked at and I was, no way. So for me personally, it's got to be short, sharp, and to the point. And it's got to be you in that video. So it's very tempting to do a screen share or a PowerPoint presentation and put it into a video. But if you're prospecting, we're not at that point yet. It's got to be kind of top line. It's got to be your personality, and it's got to leave me feeling like I'm interested in understanding more what you can offer me, because you sound like an expert and you sound like you get me, even though we haven't met. I think that's the real aim. So personalized, take the time to make it human, fun, and all about who you are and what problem you think that I've got that you can solve.
Yeah, and the length as well. I think that was one of the other questions, actually, not making it too long. It needs to be short and sharp and to the point, not 3 minutes, because they're going to get bored. I would say you're looking at well under a minute probably to get some quick impact. Yeah. And someone's also asked in the chat about, should they go through email or LinkedIn? I would usually, our preference tends to be email rather than LinkedIn, because I think LinkedIn inboxing can sometimes get lost. So we get much better results via email when we're looking to engage. But for this, I actually would say LinkedIn. I don't know what your views are, Amanda.
I would actually say email.
Really? Okay. Interesting.
So I tend to lose LinkedIn messages a lot.
Yeah, get lost. You get so many, don't you? It's so hard to keep on track of them.
Exactly. So I really like what Charlotte was saying about that direct, you're direct to the decision maker on LinkedIn, which is absolutely true. But also it can be, just everyone, particularly since the pandemic, it's been great for LinkedIn, I imagine, in terms of their, their own usage and people getting content. But for me, particularly if you use a service like Vidyard, so you can actually get a thumbnail of that video in the email content that you're seeing, I think that sticks out when you've got lots of emails in your inbox. But the key is you've got to do it every way and try all those different journeys, because every prospect's going to be different.
Yeah, no, Vidyard sounds good. We're going to certainly check it out. In fact, it looks like Nicole, one of our campaign success managers, already has used it. So Nicole, I'm going to talk to you about that after this. So quick fire. We've nearly got through all the questions. Woohoo! Charlotte, how open to sharing business challenges are you with a prospective agency? It can feel presumptuous to assume presume what the problems are based on what's in the public domain. So would you be happy to share? I mean, I think you've probably shared quite a bit today, but how can they get you to share might be a better way of asking that.
Yeah, I mean, that's an excellent question. I tend to give briefs that infer something, but don't overshare, because as with any sector, there comes a point when we're prepared to share, when all that NDA stuff is done, because it's a very competitive marketplace. And we also know we know what when the drums start drumming, don't we? When there's any teaser of sort of a big brand making a move, suddenly it's in campaign or something. So I think that's an excellent question of, I would infer a business challenge, or maybe sort of give a scenario at a very broad level. And it would be interesting to see how that conversation plays out, to then think, are we going to the next stage?
Yeah, no, I love it. I think that's so true. And I think you need to be careful in terms of how you approach brands. You can't, if you're prospecting, you can't just ask them what are your problems. You need to go with something. And I think often when you're answering a brief, what brands really want to see, or clients want to see, is that you are also going to help them spot future problems maybe they weren't even aware of. So yeah, you do need to do your research and then eke out what you can in the process. Now we only have 2 minutes left. Very quick fire answer to
actually, Katie, I just thought of something interesting on that point, which is about and it hasn't come out yet, but the idea of matchmakers in putting clients and agencies together. And actually, I would say one of the major advantages sometimes of those matchmakers is the way in which they frame the conversations. So confidentiality is upfront and at the forefront of all of those discussions. And I've had 2 experiences in that nature where that has been a really fantastic security piece as a client, to know that the conversations from the forefront, the confidentiality piece is stated up front.
Yeah, I think that's really important, certainly for larger brands like Knight Frank and Savills. If you're prospecting to those kind of companies, you do need to be really careful, because the last thing you want is anything being linked to the campaign or the drum or any of the other marketing titles, Marketing Week, etc. Very quick questions here, do's and don'ts. Now we've only got 1 minute left, so I'm going to go slightly over, which I don't usually do, but bear with me, guys, if you can. Do's and don'ts on round tables from Charlotte, I guess. Well, Charlotte, what would you say? Do's and don'ts. What do you want and what don't you want in a round table situation?
Are we talking round tables as in sharing kind of CEOs around the table?
Yes.
Do's and don'ts. I love a high profile kind of keynote speaker. So I cited the one on LinkedIn. I love that kind of, if there's someone in the industry that's a big figurehead for me, or someone leading an innovative piece, or that sharing of best practice. So that's quite important. Making sure the caliber of the people around the table is there, and you're going to be having, you're there at the same level. Chatham House rules, I think, is quite important. so that people can go into that room and be able to have really kind of authentic, meaningful conversations rather than kind of glaze over subjects. So that Chatham House, great venue,
Yes.
champagne and canapes.
Yeah, I would definitely say Chatham House rule. Sorry, just it's so important that where I was talking earlier about shattering content, round tables not the place to share content. You want people to be able to speak freely. It's a totally different methodology to the other stuff we were talking about. So yeah, make sure it's Chatham House rules. And yeah, venue important. Have a really sexy, easy to get to central London venue. Big top tip for me is also host them at breakfast time before people have a busy day, because you have a busy day and you've got kids to pick up or whatever. You can always make an excuse not to go. Whereas if it's first thing in the morning, you go straight in, it's done. It's a much better time of day. Right, I am going to end there. Thomas also added, who's going to win football? England, obviously. Very excited. And for any of you that are, both Amanda and myself are going to Madfest tomorrow. Michael, are you coming to Madfest? I think.
Unfortunately not, no. Apologies. I've just had my second jab and I'm just waiting a little bit before I get back into the wild.
Me too, but I'm daring it and I'm going to just mask up. So real world events are coming back into play. I'm going to my first big conference tomorrow, Madfest. If anyone hasn't checked it out, do check it out. It's got an awesome lineup, some amazing speakers, brands, and lots and lots of agencies going. Thank you all for attending today. I haven't run the poll, so I'm going to be in trouble with Michaela, who usually does our marketing and helps keep me organized, but she's on holiday this week, so she won't realize till she's back. Thank you everyone for joining. If there are, I will check the chat and the Q&A. It might be next week when Michaela's back that we reach out to you lovely panelists. If there are any pressing questions, please do come to us. I will make sure I put them to our panel and we will try and get back to you next week. But otherwise, thank you everyone so much for joining. Do check out the podcast, and I do hope to see word on the street, search it on. In fact, Amanda's on, and I think Charlotte, you're coming on. Have we got you booked in? We have, haven't we? So yeah, we just need to get you on, Michael, and then we've got all three of us. So yeah, thank you everyone. Have a fantastic day. Great conversation. I learnt lots. Lovely to see you all.